Hello, music lovers. My name's Andy. Welcome back to the Woodshed. Recently, I got to interview the mighty Paul Gilbert. Now, those of you that know who Paul is, which if you're watching this channel, it's probably everybody watching this channel. But if you know, then you know that he is a member of Mr. Big Racer X, solo artist. He's got a discography that could plaster this wall. Paul is an absolute living legend and an elemental force when it comes to technique, alternate picking, shred, tactics, all the things. So it was a real honor to get Paul in here in the woodshed and interview him. And if you're interested in hanging out with Paul and myself and Dan Huff, Trey Hensley, Mark Letary in September, then make sure to hit up the Woodshed Guitar Experience. Now, with that said, let's check out that interview. Hey,
How you?
Paul. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. What's happening this morning or this afternoon for you?
Yeah, we're just hitting that threshold of noon is about to arrive and the afternoon is upon us out here in East Tennessee.
What music is in your head at the moment?
Man, there was a neat concert I got to go to last week. A guy named Steven Wilson Jr. He's a singer-songwriter, and as far as lyrics go, I was really blown away. Like really, really blown away.
I've never
And
heard that.
great voice and stuff. Not to take away. I say like lyrics, like the rest of the show was no good. That's not true. The rest of the show was great. And the band was really unique. He played like like a parlor sized acoustic, but it had some kind of Jack White inspired Filtertron situation, just something that didn't belong in there,
Yeah,
shoehorned in there. So his sound was really unique. It had like a rubber band sound, but like in a cool way, not in like a
yeah,
lame way. And then his steel player didn't play traditional pedal steel like Buddy Emmons or something like that. It was like a table that he was like standing up behind. And it
Oh
was like
wow.
so, and then there was a bass player and a drummer.
Yeah.
And the songs were just incredible. Like
Wow.
cold chills up my arms. And you know, I've heard a lot of music in my life, and that tends to get more rare. you know,
Yeah.
as time evolves, things hit you. You kind of have that. Well, I've seen it all before. Cynical approach sometimes, which is unhealthy. But I'm admitting my faults. And but man, the dude got up on stage and just delivered every single thing. Show flow, everything was great. He had a cover of "Stand by Me,"
Yeah.
and it was just done really clever. There's like elements of all the things that I think are modern cool things in Nashville right now, like Chris Stapleton or Eric Church. There's elements of that, but it had he had his own vibe, and it's like you could only just say there's elements of. It didn't sound like.
I'm sold. I already I'm on my way to the whatever the equivalent of the record store is.
It was great, man. So I'm gonna flip the script. What's rolling around in your head?
I found this Nina Simone song that starts off like a blues, but on bar 9 where it normally goes to the 5 chord, it stays on the 1, which sort of shakes things up. And then it goes to these kind of gospel changes. And I'm trying to find out if there's any other song in the world that does that. It doesn't sound weird. It's just, I mean, there's the 12 bar blues has been so overdone that any variation is like they could somehow do, and it ends up being a 16 bar.
Yeah.
But so I'm on a hunt to see if I can find, one other song in the universe that stays on the 1 when you expect it to go to the 5, and then it's sort of an esoteric thing. But I like that song so much, and I've been, growing up as a heavy metal guitar player to try to navigate gospel changes and
Yeah.
not have it throw me off the throw me off the horse
Yeah.
is well, it's becoming easier and easier because I'm working on it.
Right. 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 Right.
But at first, it was completely, and it always sounded okay to my ears. I mean, as a listener, it wasn't unusual, but as a player, it's like I don't know where any of those notes are on my guitar.
Right, right, right.
I've got the wrong guitar.
And it's,
Those notes aren't on there.
yeah, yeah. I work often with a fabulous, fabulous gospel soul R&B piano player named Mike Hicks, and he's just got that wisdom from that world because he grew up in the church scene.
Yeah,
So one of the things he said one time, I was like, kind of just interviewing him for my Patreon channel, and
yeah.
share the wisdom, give us something. And he was like, "Man, we're just going 2-5-1 into everything." And I'm like, "So what do you mean?" I was like, "Elaborate." He goes, "Oh, if we're going to the 6th chord, I'm on 2-5-1 to the 6th chord, as if the 6 is the new one." He goes, "We're going to the 4 chord, I'm on 2-5-1 into that 4 chord." So it's like, for those that might watch this, say you're playing in the key of G and you're headed to C, which is your 4 chord.
Right.
Mike is saying he's going to play a G chord, and then he's going to play like 2-5-1 of the C. So he's going
Yeah.
to D minor G C. So he's like, no, and
He can always have a really strong resolution to wherever he's going.
and so the theory, that's the simple way. But now when I hear him do it in real time, like we'll be playing, we work with the lead singer from Rascal Flatts a lot. And so we'll be playing tunes like Broken Road or whatever, these, pop country tunes, and he'll 2-5-1 into the places that you don't see it coming, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like he calls it like the fundamental core building block of the gospel soul, quartet thing that's all built on.
Sort of the harmonic version of what I always expect from a drum fill. 'Cause to me,
Okay.
a drum fill is like a street sign that tells you that something is about to happen.
Yeah.
It's like there's a crossroad coming up. So, here comes the crossroad. The drum fill just tells you, here comes the bridge now.
Okay. So what's your favorite? Yeah, it doesn't have to be permanent. We're not getting tattoos, but like, what's your favorite drum fill?
Well, I'm a hobbyist drummer, so I'm sort of a slave to the bit of the dome.
Okay. Biddle
You
don't.
know, so when you have I mean, a sort of dramatic bit of the dump is Stairway to Heaven when he goes bupper bupper bupper
Yeah.
bupper bupper bump, down the road. So that's a bunch of bit of the dumps right in a road.
That's
Just
in
a
the
quick
top
bit of the dump.
five.
If you're
That's
just
in the
going
top five for sure, right?
bit of the dump.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now the thing about bit of the dumps is if you're in Pro Tools and you're doing a lot of beat detective, it's always a pain because the biddle dump ends up putting a triplet,
Yeah.
and so beat detective gets
It
thrown out of the
doesn't like
track.
it.
Yeah, and so since I edit my own drums a lot, as I'm playing my demo, I'm going like, oh, don't do the biddle dump because you're gonna have to spend 15 minutes editing it.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I just won't edit that part. Leave that part human.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I was about to say that's just where you just leave the ball as it lies on the
Yeah,
field. You know what I mean?
don't let beat detective get involved in the biddle dump.
When I was earlier in my game, I would really obsess over the demos and try to get them as spot on as I wanted.
Yeah.
Now, man, I'm just like, no, that's the drummer's problem when we track the song. Like I'm not gonna beat myself up over something because it's a lot like, for me, as I've come up, I'm getting to work with, better and better play. It's like, how the world kind of works, music industry works. And it's like, why in the world would you work with some of the greatest players on the planet and make them play your demo when you're a guitar player? It's like you got the guys they're going to have a good idea, be open to it, right?
Well, that's a good situation. If you if you don't have the greatest guys in the world, or sometimes if you just are trying to suss out if the song, if you like the song or not.
Yeah, because that's it, right?
Like, what is this really going to sound like? Because it's a big stretch of the imagination. I mean, the more you do it, the more you get used to it. But when you're humming to your iPhone some little melody, the difference between how that feels and how the big production feels with all the accompaniment backing up that melody, sung, with passion and expertise. It's a whole. It can be a very different world. So a lot of times if I'm playing all the instruments in my demo, I mean, first of all, I just have fun with it because I love playing drums. So I'll put too much time into it just because I'm having a good time. But I must admit, with Pro Tools or editing, you can spend way too much time making stuff perfect. And so, as anybody does that, you start to find the point where it's like, okay, what's good enough for my purposes so I don't waste the whole day because I could be doing something better or moving on to the next song.
It's like that path that you just talked about in the last couple of sentences. Um, I was spending so much time polishing instead of taking inventory. There's a really
Yeah.
great Jason Isbell quote that says, "I'm not." Well, he was talking about his own writing. He said, "I'm not in the business of editing. I'm in the business of writing." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, I'm going to try that with my latest album. I'm just going to write." And so I had 53 demos that were really raw. I mean, like, just take the Logic drummer and just drag and paste whatever he thinks he's going to play.
It's almost like a metronome.
That's exactly the way I treated it. And it was like when I was on inventory side in the pre-production stages, I was able to just listen and be like, this is clearly one of the best hooks out
Yeah.
of everything. This has to make the record. So and another thing that I wouldn't let myself do on the new record was like, I wouldn't let myself write the solos.
Oh yeah.
Don't let yourself get to the good part because you're going to get demo love and be married to that solo.
Yeah.
And now, because that one tricky, complicated thing is in there, you're going to want it on the record. And since I put that on the back shelf, I was like, I can come back to these things, these polishing things. But now I've got 53 verses and choruses. I can go, this is clearly the good one.
Yeah.
It's so much more evident,
Well, writing brain is so different than playing brain. So there's difference between being an architect and being the person who's carving the leg of the wooden furniture.
Yeah.
It's like ultra details, the playing part, and then stepping back and looking at the whole picture is the writing part. And it's not, for me anyway, it's not easy to do that shift, but you kind of have to.
So where does the split happen or the rub when you're in improvisational mode? Because I think you and I both are huge fans of guys like Van Halen and Jeff Beck and things like this, and they never played the same thing twice, like essentially, right?
Yeah.
And then of course the improvisation thing can get farther out to Pat Metheny world, or it can be more structured in Hans Zimmer world, right? Like these things can be malleable. Where is that for you when it comes to a composition? Like, do you intentionally go, okay, well, this is the section that I'm going to loop and I'm going to blow over until my heart's content live? Or is it a thing where when you're playing live, just the spirit overcomes you and you look back at the drummer and you're like, we're going to stay? Like, where is all of that for you, composition versus improvisation? Because it's like improvisation is essentially composition in real time.
When you mention Van Halen and Jeff Beck, one of the biggest differences there is the length of the solo. Van Halen did short solos,
Short solos.
really short. I mean, you can't believe how short they are. Whereas like, typically in jazz or fusion, go as long as you want until you're done,
Yeah.
and then wrap it up and either give it to the next guy or that's the end of your 12-minute song.
Like the Allman
And it,
Brothers or something, right?
yeah,
And it's like,
and
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 it's like, and it's almost like Eddie got more into doing the Allman Brothers-y thing with the more Hagar stuff, because those outro solos,
yeah.
like in the Hagar years, it was like the end of the song would come around, and those fade outs started appearing more and more instead of the clever girl gone bad endings, or whatever it may be. I'm just pulling one out thin air, Panama endings or
But,
whatever.
but still, overall, I mean, I think, I mean, for me, growing up as initially a pop fan, liking the Beatles and what was on the radio in the '70s, like listening to Elton John and the Carpenters, uh, I was into songs more than long improvisations. So it took me much longer before my ear. I mean, maybe the first time I really heard like long improvisations was the live Led Zeppelin movie.
Like song remains the same.
Song remains the same. I didn't have the record yet. My mom, I was like 10 years old or something. My mom took me because I was a big Led Zeppelin fan, and I was bored out of my mind. Like, when
Oh,
are they going to
because the
play this?
solos are so
Yeah, like, when are
long.
they going to play the song? What's this long thing? I love it now because, well, basically I've memorized it because I listened to it so much, did air guitar as a kid. But my initial like knee-jerk reaction to long improvisation was, well, this is, I bet the guy on stage is having fun, but for me, I'm putting me to sleep. So I'm always a little scared of that because now, because I have a much bigger vocabulary as a player, I really enjoy doing a long solo. Like, sometimes the first song comes to mind is I'll do the cover of Light My Fire. And I'll play, keyboard part on guitar, and it's easy to sing because Morrison sings low, and and then it's got this endless solo in the middle, just A Dorian, and it's kind of interesting to listen to Robbie Krieger because he goes Dorian, natural minor, sort of back and forth,
Yeah.
but in any case, it's long. They're just going on and on. Take it, Benny, as long as you want, and I think in the case there, the thing as a fan that is gripping to me when I hear improvisation is when I can hear maybe two things. One is that the player is playing what they hear in their head. When I hear BB King, it always sounds to me like he's singing what he's playing. Like it's very truthful. He's
Yeah.
telling the truth with what he's playing. It's not like finger exercises or patterns. He's connected to the singer part of his brain when he's playing guitar, and that to me is really, I really like that, and that's really opened up blues and jazz to me as a listener because I can tell, like, oh, that guy's telling the truth. And I just get a sense of it. It's more melodic.
It's the
The other,
authenticity, right? It's like that's what, and what's strange about that is, like, I think the non-players can smell it in the water too. Because it's like I go see Susan Tedeschi and Derek Trucks, and there's some heavy improvising in a show like that, and the audience is like gripped
yeah,
because I refuse to believe there's 8,000 people there that play slide guitar. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
so it's like,
Yeah,
what
so
is it that's that magnetism in that improvisation that's got them like,
yeah, so that connection to your singer's voice, with your instrument, and then the other one is to be able to tell a story by connecting to whatever you just played. And so, and in order to do that, you have to listen to yourself. So whatever you just played, you kind of have to go, okay, what would be it's rather than just like jump around. Okay, all right, well, this lick and that lick,
right?
it's more like I just play that, and whatever comes next has to be because the first thing happened. And so you're listening hard. You're so much of your mental focus is on like really paying attention to what you did,
And that's
rather
the
than like,
inner
oh, forget about
singer.
that, that's over.
And
Yeah. So
that ties to that singer's voice thing.
yeah.
It's almost like those two things have to ride down the street together.
And the funny thing is, I record myself all the time because, especially because I do so many videos for my students at my
Mhm.
online school. And a lot of times, if students asking about improvisation, I'll do some improv. Well, if I listen to it back, I can tell the sections where I'm telling the truth and the sections where I kind of like,
Patch bang.
am resorting to finger patterns. And
Yeah.
it's not a mistake. It's not like, oh, I'm playing the wrong notes or I'm out of
Right.
time. Everything's correct, but that connection might be lost for a second. And I've become real aware of that. And when you are connected, that is the best feeling in the world. It's just so amazing how heartful that is to connect to that. So that to me is the main motivation for improvising, short or long.
Right.
And then, there is like, being a guitar player and inventing things that are unique to what your hands will do. And, those things aren't without value. But to me, that's where I am at the moment is exploring that telling the truth melodically.
It's like the things that you mentioned that were of value, the discovering new techniques or new harmonizations, whatever. It's they're tools to the bigger cause. And
Yeah.
oftentimes we as guitar when I teach too, it's like I'm always like trying to tell my students, like, keep your eye on the ball of what you're trying to do. You don't need to go to Lowe's and buy every single shovel and lawnmower and wrench and everything if you're trying to paint your house. You need a paintbrush. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and like the armament, it's like me
Even if
and
it's a really cool lawnmower.
a great lawnmower, but I'm painting
I
my
gotta use
house.
this lawnmower. It's the best one.
It's a term me and my buddy Ben, we say it a lot. It's the arms race. Like it's really easy as a guitar player to get caught up in the arms race. And then
Yeah.
you gotta remember like what it's about. And that so the improvisation world for me, it was something I really grew up in. I grew up a bluegrass mandolin player, so it's
Yeah.
like that was part of the vernacular, and that world is a lot like jazz in that you play the form of the tune. Everybody solos, you play the form of the tune again, and
Yeah.
then there she is. You know what I mean? And so you're talking about that connection that happens when you're actually in that flow state, that like nice sweet spot of hearing a line and it's happening. It's like that's why you practice. You don't practice to execute something. You practice so there's no barriers between the synapses and the
Yeah.
hands,
Well, at the beginning, when
at
you've
the
never
beginning.
played
Yeah,
the instrument before,
yeah,
and
you're right.
sometimes I'll do a little mental trick to remember what that's like. I'll think, okay,
Oh yeah, 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 man. Like,
I'm
what is it
already,
like to not be able to play the F
yeah,
chord? You know what
yeah.
I mean?
It's
It's
like
like
I'm the same person. My musical ideas are the same, but suddenly I can't do anything.
it's not
You
there.
where okay, now here we go.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
to me, that's valuable as a teacher because if I'm teaching a beginner or somebody who hasn't done isn't well versed in a particular technique, rather than just go, it's if you can do something, it's easy to think like, oh, anybody can do this, and I'll go, no, 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 like what would
Yeah.
it feel like if I had to do this? I'm the same cat, and now I can't, so I inflict that idea on myself to sort of be humble and remember what it feels like to struggle.
Oh man, that happens to me. My recent, I'd say recent, past couple years, I've dug the fiddle back up, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
and so like the left hand of the fiddle is exactly the same as the mandolins. Like
Yeah.
tuning is the same, but boy, to get that note to just not sound like, you know,
You're torturing a cat.
yeah, it's like it takes a lot more things. It's totally the same thing. So you talk about teaching. I know you got the Artist Works thing, and it's like in the post COVID world, like there's so much digital sharing and way of instructing and stuff. But this is our first time having you at Woodshed at our event. And I just wanted to ask you kind of a loaded question, which is like, what makes a great event? And don't limit it to just being a guitar camp. Like, what's some of those things that you've done in your career, whether it be like Budokan or just having to be this dive bar where everything was clicking? Like, what makes something magic in a live environment that you can't get from YouTube or Patreon or whatever?
Well, just like we were talking about with improvising and connecting musically to something you've done, to connect as a human, whether it be musical or whether it be at breakfast, talking about you know how to fit it in some practice time when you've got a busy life with your family. And I guess I'll take this back to when I was a kid. I was really wanted to play guitar, and I took guitar lessons when I was 6, and I gave up almost immediately because it was all sight reading, and I wanted to play rock and roll. And my uncle came and visited, and which was a rare event. He lived in another state, so he didn't come that often. But he came and visited. He picked up my guitar because he was a really good guitar player, and to hear what he could do with my guitar close up,
Yeah.
you know, just sitting on a chair 3 feet away.
No medium of speaker or any other. There's
Yeah,
nothing in the way. It's just
just
there it
watch, like
is.
that's the same guitar I've been trying to plunk a melody out of, and he picks it up and gets this sound or this feel out of it, and then I went like, oh, I see what's possible.
Mm.
Like it seems like magic because if you hear it on if you do see it on television or oh there's some kind of magic and you can't really it seems unreal.
Yeah.
But having him right there, uh that's I mean it didn't make it any less magical emotionally, but it made it seem doable. Like he's a human. He's my uncle. I know him, but he's getting this amazing thing to happen on my guitar, and uh, and so that was one of the best inspirations. And I think at a good event like this, that's sort of what you're looking for is uh, that potential or that situation where you can be close to people and get something you can't get over the wires.
So like going back to the kids stuff, I love it, man, because I get the vibe that you went to a lot of concerts as a kid, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
so like when you gave me the story just now about the uncle and the guitar. How far away in years was it before you started like the garage band jamming with other dudes your age? Like how far down the line is that? Because you were like, dude, you were famous young. Like you got real famous real young. So I can't
Yeah.
imagine that window. Like what was that period like?
Well, I started actually practicing every day on guitar when I was 9. Just on one string. I really didn't know what I was doing. This is like sort of
Pre uncle? Is this
pre
pre
uncle.
uncle?
I mean,
Okay,
I
okay.
had seen him play. I knew he was great, but it was before. I'm still. Actually, I thought like I've been procrastinating for 3 years because I remember quitting when I was 6. I thought,
Okay.
man, I'm 9. I gotta get on this because
Dude, I'm over the hill.
3 years have gone by. That's a long time. I can't waste any more time. So I was just going for it on one string, and I I really value that time because I got really comfortable with one string.
Hmm.
And I'll see people that have all this knowledge and in a way you could write down a checklist of all the stuff they can do, but they don't really have a feel that they ever developed for just getting one note to sound good.
Mm.
And that's kind of what I was doing. Like I had no knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
hardly any vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
But I just spent all this time polishing like the 3 notes that I could figure out on the low E string. So when I finally did start getting some knowledge, I started taking lessons again when I was 11. Then I just took off because everything I could do, I had a pretty good instincts. My ear was developed a lot more, and everything that I tried, most things came pretty easily at that point. Uh, so the first band I was in I was 11, and it was the older, other kids that were young teenagers, and we played. I would play songs that my teacher showed me. Like he showed me "It Don't Come Easy" by Ringo Starr, which had that like arpeggio kind of Leslie guitar part, and that to me was unbelievable because it's I could play it and it would sound like the record. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't have a Leslie, but I could arpeggiate the chord, and I thought this is amazing because I didn't know chords before. When I was just playing, the low E string,
Right.
I could sort of play a riff. I played like 25 to 6 to 4 is sort of a primitive version of that. Da 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 da. Da.
Right.
But to play like an arpeggiated chord, and it seemed relatively easy. Left hand just you get to hold one thing for a while, and then you move the right hand around, and it sounds like the Ringo song. And I was just thrilled to death. And and then I had a Beatles book, so I'd go through and read the chord diagrams and go, wow, I can't believe I could play Rain and being a big Beatles fan, those songs were already kind of in my head, and then
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
able
yeah.
to play along the record, I was just thrilled to death.
So when did it get to where there's other dudes in the room?
Well, that was when I was 11. We played like a talent show and
Was that like
lost.
at the schoolhouse or like what's the
Yeah,
what
I
was
don't
it?
even remember. It was at you know some building with a swimming pool.
Yeah.
we,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we didn't win. Um, but I think the first time that I felt like my band sounded good I was about 14, and I had a drummer who could hit hard, and he could sing too. Like he was kind of amazing. He could sing "You Shook Me All Night Long" by AC/DC and play the drums at the same time. And we had a bass player, and we had big amps, and we would rehearse like almost every day. I'd walk to our, we found a little abandoned room above a record store, and just every day we'd rehearse for 2 or 3 hours, and I'd record it on my cassette player, go home and listen to it, and I think one of the most valuable things is at that time there were still popular rock shuffles, like
Oh
School's
yeah,
Out.
yeah,
Doom ba da doom ba da
yeah,
doom ba da bum ba da boom ba da. So a lot of the songs we did had shuffles in them.
like smoking in the boys' room or whatever.
Yes,
You know,
and we didn't do that one, but we had like American Girls by Triumph. Doom ba
I got you.
da doom ba da 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 ba da 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 da. So, a lot of the original songs that I wrote were shuffle riffs,
Nice.
and so
But you didn't have this like deep Texas blues background for the "You Live and Die" by the
well, it
Shuffle,
was on the
right?
radio though. I mean, like I love when the ZZ Top song would come on the radio. I
Oh,
dug
sure.
it,
Okay. Okay.
and so and there were my dad had a lot of blues records, so we had like John Lee Hooker, one bourbon, one scotch, one beer,
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
George Thorogood covered it, that was always on the record player, and and stuff like I mean, sort of uh, turbocharged blues like Frank Marino.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
He had this song called "Down, Down, Down." It was like doom da ba dum ka doo ka da boom ba ba da
Yeah.
ba doo ka da boom ba ba da ba doo da ka da ba ba da da. Just all these cool accents with a shuffle. So I mean, I didn't have the term for it. I just, but I found, in now that I do have the term for it, I look back and go, man, well, I was playing a lot of shuffles and a lot of rhythm guitar, because I'm
Yeah.
backing up the singer
Hmm.
and doing the ba-da, 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 the thing where you got to stretch your pinky out. You play a power chord, but you got to stretch the pinky and do it. So I spent put in a lot of good hours playing, boogie rhythm and boogie solos and having that on the radio and that I say that because now like when I hear a lot of my students, that's often the missing element. So I
Hmm.
value it and teach it because I'm like, man, this you got to check this out. This is some good stuff.
Hmm.
And I believe that playing that really informed, it really drew something out of my tech. It made me develop a technique that worked for other stuff too.
Hmm.
Like a lot of the sort of techniques that are unique to how I play came from playing boogie rock
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
having to get that. I mean, at its core, the solo having to play
Right.
across three strings
Yeah.
and get that to be a triplet.
Right.
Where you're playing, the third string, second string, first string, and have that not be a mess.
Right.
And there's no easy way to do it.
No.
If you sweep pick it, then it's got this weird little stutter and it's blurry.
Yep.
And my solution is not perfect because it's not like the fastest thing in the world, but it's fast enough, and it really opens up so many other things. So when a lot of times like the real shreddy stuff I'll be doing, I'll look back and go, that came from playing boogie rock.
Oh man, that has happened so much to me in my life where like I've been asked about something. I'm like, well, basically this is a fiddle tune with a
Yeah,
lot of distortion,
yeah,
And the same kind of thing with the three string cross picking stuff, in that language. And in country and western bluegrass music, the shuffles everywhere.
yeah,
So much of it everywhere. There's a lot of great points you make about developing technique that fits over that time feel.
yeah.
It opens up the doors to make other things
Well, the
easier.
nice thing about it too is that it has to be dynamic.
It has to be. It has to be.
Because if you do that, if every hit is the same volume,
Yeah.
it loses its swing.
Yeah, you can't copy and paste it.
To develop that ability to hit some notes quiet and others loud and with different tones and some muted and some open,
Hmm.
that that to me it brings so much expression and joy into the process. Yeah.
It's what makes the guitar and not a glorified keyboard, right? It's like it's the fact that we have so much like timbre manipulation And a
Yeah.
keyboard player really has to work to change the timbre of something. They have to
Yeah.
do a lot of things where we can just, now it sounds way different. Your
Yeah.
mid range and your top end can be
Yeah.
literally this,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the
Or none of this
honesty
and do a pull off.
or none, yeah, or none or all, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
totally, totally for sure. So I don't want to keep you forever, but I got one more question I want to ask you about. You are like when the last time I saw you, we were on stage at Anaheim about 5 years ago with Andy Timmons and Mark Letary, and we were doing the Elements of Sound gig. And in between time, you've been making some records, and you are an encyclopedia of songs, specifically pop and rock songs. Like I've never met anybody that knows as many songs as you do. So with this huge volume, this huge Rolodex, what led to making the Dio record? Like, where is the flag in the ground that's like, you know who it is? It's Dio. And I don't mean
Yeah.
that disrespectfully. I love Dio. It's just, how did you get there? Like, what was that choice?
Well, a bunch of things come to mind. Let's see. I mean, initially, I wanted to play melodies. I wanted to play, vocal lines on guitar, and I wanted to learn something. Um, so, I thought this is some great melody and also performance of that melody to study. Um, a lot of it's minor, but also there are bluesy elements in there.
Sure.
Uh, and and also, I hadn't played because I don't play a lot of metal rhythm guitar, but I used to,
Sure.
and I must admit I had got more chills. The hair was standing up on my arms so often as I was playing the rhythm parts and just going like, man, this is cool. This is just sounds so good. These awesome rhythm parts from whether it be Blackmore, Vivian Campbell, or who else was there's one, oh, Tony Iommi.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So those rhythm parts are so good. But the focus was playing the Dio parts on guitar, and I think the spark of it was the song "Long Live Rock and Roll," Rainbow Song, and on the face of it, the melody in the verse is really simple. But I was trying to play it with slide,
Okay.
and you have to. And as a listener, I have really powerful instincts about where the slide needs to happen, both into a note and out of the note, and also where there isn't one.
Mhm.
So if it's not right, I really feel it. Like the smoke alarm goes off. If it's like there's got to be a slide there. I don't know why. It has to. That's the way it goes.
It's the way it goes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and to work out the fingerings. Again, it's like three notes, but on guitar you've got a lot of options. It's on one string. It's on a couple strings. Do you get this note here or there? And it makes all the difference in the world to how to express it. And a lot of what I realized I needed to do to have it sound right was I didn't have those techniques together. I really had to practice it, I had to learn new things. And that is the best. I love learning new things when the result is like, that's the way it's supposed to sound. And, uh, and so I had already done a lot of that because I was teaching this stuff to my students at my online school. And I had already done that one. And there's probably a couple other Dio songs that I had done. I'd done a lot of other singers too. But as I started to think about it, like, oh, I really had a good time doing "Long Live Rock and Roll." What? And I just messed with it. What about if this one, and what about this? And they all just felt good and made me excited. So why not keep going if you're excited?
I love it, man. It's like keeping that fun at the center, right? Like that's the whole game of music, and I think that's what keeps us all kind of hanging on and shifting around. And like I said about going to Lowe's and buying this. That's what else we want to go tool shopping and trying out the new pedals.
Yeah.
It's like we love it, we love it. Well, man, I can't thank you enough for taking time here to hang out and talk. I'm so looking forward to having you in September at the event. We're going to have a great time. Dan Huff's going to be there. Bluegrass guitarist named Trey Hensley is going to be there. Mark Lettieri's coming back. It's going to be a blast, man. And I'm super
That's
stoked
awesome.
to have
And
you.
by that time, I'll have a handle on Chili Wins by Nina Simone, and we'll
Yeah.
do that. Maybe some Dio.
Yeah. I'll do the piano part to Rainbow in the Dark, and you can play the melody line. Yeah.
Right on. Well, thank you so much. I'll see you there.
Okay, thanks, Paul. I'll see you, brother.
Okay, bye-bye.